Well, Jay, thank you so much for coming on today, kind of last minute. We had a scheduling conflict for our episode this week, and so I posted my SOS on the Facebook groups, and you graciously hopped up. And I really do appreciate that, people that, are entrepreneurial, self-employed, and make that time and effort to do stuff like this. I so really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on. Jay's a DJ. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Cool. Yeah. Hi, I'm Jay. I'm a DJ. Who I am and what I do. I'm a 31-year-old dude. I live in Seattle. I've been up here just over 3 years. I grew up in Olympia, Washington, so not too far away. So I've known the area, and I've been working in the Puget Sound area for the entirety of the career here. With COVID, not a lot going on, but, trying to make pivots and make changes, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But I've always been into music and interested, and a loud, weird dude. So,
and you also said you also have a podcast too, right? That you do with because you kind of got the setup here, which is a little more advanced than a lot of our guests do. Is that something you guys just do for fun in the off season, or what is that about?
Yeah. So my buddy Brian, he's a graphic designer. He actually designed my logo. We've been friends for a while, and we started a podcast called Silver Boys Brunch Squad. And it's just the ramblings of two guys with ADD, talking about anything from, squatty potties to the presidential election, just all over the place. But it's pretty fun. It's really random. It's typically like 2 hours long, but if you like random stuff, that's what we do. The rest of this is like I also produce, so I've had this mic for a while to get vocals from other people. I actually just recorded Kelsey's intro for her podcast song that she's coming out with soon.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, Kelsey has been on Get to Know Your Wedding Pro 3 weeks ago now, I think, and then was on Best Made Weddings too as a business coach, and launching her own. Excited to hear about that too. So I love getting DJs on here because in the questionnaire you filled out too, because it's so much more than just like the gear you have or like being able to play music. It really is about, who you guys are, or guys or girls, personality wise,
right.
Really being involved in that. And I do think that is underrated or underappreciated sometimes. So what do you like at weddings? What do you like to bring, as an MC and as someone that's kind of helping dictate the course of the evening?
Totally. It's a great question. I think it is really important for people to know that. Oftentimes people don't even think about the role of a DJ until it comes down to deciding who's going to be a part of the most important day of your life. That's kind of unfortunate. So it is cool to be able to like let people in and know. And it is one of the challenges to like put that in their lap all together with the first hello, like, hi, what are your pricing? I was like, okay, well, first of all, I like to, I want to be a good leader, which is important. I don't know if you know this. But yeah, I try to bring energy. I've been doing this like 7 years, and, at first it was just like show up, play music. I can do that. That's easy. And then after meeting a couple other professionals in the field who are like way more organized than I probably still am today, just showing what they brought to the table and the reaction of the crowd and the bride on things that weren't music, like interacting with the photographer, interacting with the day of coordinator, the caterer, getting to know all the names of the bridal party, the parents, just becoming a more integral piece of the event. Because no matter what you do, a wedding will go a different direction. Something's going to happen, right? So being able to kind of like get all those moving pieces kind of together and kind of help lead that. And then on top of that, if there's no host, it can be kind of awkward going from like situation to situation. It's as simple as like when the bride and groom kiss and they walk away, like we practice that in rehearsal, but then when do the guests get up and leave? Like you'll see if people are like, can we go yet?
Yeah.
Do we grab our chairs? I don't know. So it's as simple as being like, all right, everybody grab a chair, come meet us for cocktail hour. We're going to get a little funky now. I try to bring a little humor, a little joy, panache you know, I'm not super, I'm not the most professional. I mean, I'm very organized, but as far as like my voice, I try to have more fun. I think humor is really important, and it can be a very high stress day. So that's what I try to bring.
That's good.
It's a long rambling answer.
But that answer that hit all the points. No, because it is, and I say this too for I think DJs and video people both. There are plenty of like videographers too that just show up, right? That don't really, like email anybody, talk to the photographer ahead of time. They're kind of not involved. And I think they get a bad rap, right? I think a lot of videographers, and I think like you said, some DJs, where you're starting out, you're just coming, doing whatever and leaving. And then it really is getting it to that next level then like you are, getting to know everybody, figuring out, how to make, everything work together. Cause then ultimately they're going to remember that later on, right? The caterer is going to be like, oh yeah, I remember, that they helped us facilitate all that and making sure everything came out right. Then just
exactly.
Oh, I'm just playing music. Like I'm just here, and even for me working with DJs, right? There's various levels of like, some are really involved and then some are like, I'm just here,
Yeah. Like where are they during the first dance? Like what?
Yeah, or like you just hear like horror stories, like the videographers in the back eating dinner, and oh hey, we're starting the toast right now. Like oh crap, we're running. Yeah. But that's good. So how did you get involved? Did you grow up loving music and all this? Like you said, you produce, do all these other things. I mean, how did you get involved in all this?
Yeah. What I always tell people is, I grew up coloring and just doing the weird way to do things. Like I was the firstborn son, so I was my mom's favorite. So anything I did was gold. And so I think that allowed me to kind of actually do whatever I wanted to do. Whether it was like writing, I had this piece of paper and it's like, my favorite color is, and I just scribbled everything in there and there was no words, so I've always been creative. I used to do Legos. I had Lego magazine and that was all fun. And then my grandma bought us a piano because her brothers and sisters played music, but she never did. And then my parents never did. And I just played by ear. Like I would learn songs. And then I met a friend who like absolutely loved classic rock and he had a guitar. So he just taught me chords. He'd be like, play this note, that's a C. That's a C major. So that's how I learned, is just like having a classic rock friend and a piano from my grandma. And then around age 17, I bought Reason, which is the software that's still out, but it was like version 3. So that was like 12 years ago. I was like, I want to make beats, man. Like there's more than piano. So, and then it was about 4 years of doing that. And then I met this photographer down in Olympia and he introduced me to a DJ down there. Doesn't DJ anymore. It was DJ Native Havoc. At a club, and he was like, you need a better reason to do what you do. Your beats are good, but you got personality. You should be a DJ. And I was like, okay. And so I just went, but he was like, yeah, come in whenever, play with the tables. I'll let you practice, whatever. And I fucking loved it. And I went to an event and I was like, this is amazing. Can I do this for real? Can I make money doing this? And then, then bought my first tables with one of my first paychecks when I was working at Verizon, and just practice all the time. And it's crazy how much like word of mouth gets you gigs at first. Like I was like, I don't know if I'll ever get a wedding. And it was just like, hey, you DJ, right? My brother's getting married. It's like, oh, cool. And that really helped me build like a good base and then like be able to say, okay, yeah, I've done 20 weddings. Like I can advertise, I can charge more or whatever. Professionally, 7 years. On paper for the government, a year and a half. But I don't intend on ever stopping. I love it. And weddings for sure are my favorite thing to do, which is not as common. I mean, I know a lot of DJs and I have not done the club scene really. Like I've done maybe one. It seems very fun, but a lot of these club DJs, they don't love doing weddings. It seems like it's a stressor for them or something like, but people have always been my passion. Like I've always been in retail or sales. So the whole people aspect and organizing that and like, oh man, like I'm at my literal happiest when I'm doing a wedding. No happier.
Well, it is. It's so much more because, like you said, you can DJ. You could do corporate events. You could do the club. You could do. But once you're in that wedding, it's you got to deal with all this other crap that's going on. And mom and dad or whoever. And I remember even we just had we had a wedding on Saturday, and it was like it was safe, like it was COVID safe, and everyone had masks. But we were just like in this like Airbnb all day. Like, 10 hours all day. And I'm like, I am like, know all this family now, like all the drama, all the different, and you're like, man, if I was a videographer out on like a corporate shoot right now, it would not be like I'm in, it's the same with the DJ. Like you're in this stuff with them and you really got to decide if you like that or not. Cause some
for
people,
sure. Yeah.
I totally get it.
Going into it, if like, well, I'm sure whether it's you're being a videographer or a photographer or, any of those like artistic crafts, the wedding adds just this whole other layer that isn't your craft. Like you can take pictures all day and love it, but once you get involved with that day, there's a whole another dimension to it. Same with DJing. Like I know really good DJs and they're fantastic. They blow me out of water. They always will. But they don't love to interact with people like that. So they'll never love doing weddings. And so, it does take a certain person to be able to do that. And I think it's almost more important. Like it's weird to say that, but I think it's almost more important to have someone who can manage guests, obviously read a crowd. It's very important, but like manage the event, get to know the people, because it helps you customize like every moment possible for your people, which makes for happier clients. If that's your main goal, boom. If you want to make money and that's your main goal, you're going to get recommendations from that. Like if you make it more memorable, like someone's going to be like, man, it was amazing. He did everything. He was in touch with me, made it easy. It's fantastic.
Yeah. You could be the best. I can't remember which one we just had a time about photography, but you could be the best photographer in the world. But if you are stressing the people out and if you're barking orders and you're trying to get whatever, they could be beautiful photos, right? But then you're going to be left, the client or if it's a family, you're going to be left with those negative feelings. And it's the same way with a DJ, right? You could have the best whatever thing going on, but if there's no dancing or if you forget the mother of the bride's name or something gets messed up, but then it's the same thing. It doesn't, technical skill only gets you so far. And then it does a lot of, like you said, being able to interact and read the room and stuff like that.
For sure. Yeah.
What was it like? I always ask, I'm sure, when you were like working at Verizon and all this stuff, you never pictured yourself being like a wedding DJ. What was it like kind of entering? I knew nothing about weddings when I did my first wedding. I've told the story before, but, I just got like a Craigslist thing. Hey, we need a, wedding videographer in 2 days. What was it like going in and just kind of experiencing all of that? And especially as like a guy too, where, like my wife had friends and stuff. But what was it like kind of entering that?
Yeah. That's a fun question. I don't think I've thought of that in a while. Especially when you ask like as a guy, and I'll try to get to that. But at first I was just like, I want to DJ anything. Corporate events, birthday parties, clubs, just want to do it. I want to use this to travel, especially like still waiting to do that. My sister's living in Hawaii now. I'm like, get me a wedding. But yeah, entering it and then I felt, at first it was like, I wouldn't say imposter syndrome, but like, I definitely was like, this is not where I shine. I'm just going to like do the bare minimum, stay in the corner, make sure everyone's happy. I don't make anyone mad. Especially when you talk about being a guy, the wedding industry, as far as professionals, is fairly female dominated. Nothing wrong with that, but like, the bride deals with the clients most of the time. And so when you go to that and there's all these like boss women and you're like this 24-year-old DJ, which it's like a running joke on it. Any sitcom, being a DJ is like, dad's not going to approve of that. You know what I mean? So you come into this industry and it's like kind of intimidating. Like it's a very professional world compared to, clubs and birthday parties like that. So it was intimidating at first doing those, but regardless of whatever panic attack I might have had prior. It always felt amazing afterwards. And so I was like, I just want to do that again. Like it makes it all worth it. Like any stress that leads up to the event, that like 4-hour window where people are grooving and you've made the day and you get hugs and people just like salute you. It's like, man, that makes every hour worth it.
Were there things that you thought would be easier, things that you thought would be harder, kind of getting into it now looking back?
Yeah, I definitely thought rocking the crowd would be harder. And I don't mean just like flex or anything, but like I generally, and I've talked to other DJs about this, it is easier because a couple reasons. One, people want to have a good time at weddings. They're there to have fun. Like love is in the air. It's about joy. And some of these people, especially now, need a reason to cut loose. Like they need a reason. So you're not trying to show off as much as you are just like allowing them to dance. You know what I mean? So I definitely was like thinking it would be a lot harder to get age ranges from like 6 to 80 to go on the dance floor in a 100-person wedding. But it's not as hard. Like I said, most people are there to dance. I have had weddings where literally no one dances. But I think that's just like, you know, you're going to fail. You're going to eat dirt sometimes. You're not going to know your crowd every single time. That's part of it. As far as what I thought would be easier, I don't know. I always look at these challenges, assuming that they're going to be tough because it seems like a smarter way to go about it. I've definitely come unprepared to a handful of weddings. And when you said forget the name of the mom's or the name of the bride's mom, I've done that. When I was supposed to be announcing them, it was just this long pause. So yeah, being prepared is huge. And that was something I learned like 3 years ago. I met this DJ and he does real estate. He does photography. Do you know Jeremy Blue Beats? Yeah. So he taught me a lot. I think he even mentioned what I believe is it makes sense. It's the whole Russell Wilson separations and the preparation leading up to the event. There's a lot of work that you can do with the bride and groom that not only allows you to like make it better, but it gives them more peace of mind. Because before that, I've definitely had brides probably pour a couple hours into making a Spotify playlist of like 250 songs. And it's like that, thank you. But there's no way I'm going to play all this. Like there's like 18 slow songs in here. Like that's just not going to happen. And also like you shouldn't have to do that much work. If you're hiring somebody and paying them this much, you should not have to pay someone that much. And so him kind of teaching me that and going through that really changed my outlook of like how I can affect an event, how I can really add value. And that's one of the things that I want to try and portray to new clients is like, you're not just hiring like a jukebox with a mouth. Like I promise I make it so much easier and so much more personable than that. I don't even remember what your question was.
No, that's good. That's good.
Did I answer it?
You did. You know, it's so funny, like, and not to, they'll never, but like the wedding we had on Saturday. So they had a DJ and he was a DJ, but like a friend, and they had come up and it killed me when you're talking about like preparation and everything that I had emailed them ahead of time, never heard back. So then day of, you know, I'm coming in and trying to do what the email would have done and say, hey, you know, can we get a feed out for the toast? You know, what's going on? And, you know, I'm trying to like ease into it. And I'm like, so, you know, what's your plan for, cause we're kind of in this house. I'm like, you know, are you going to mic for the toast? Like what's kind of the plan? And they're like, you know, we had never talked about that. Like we've never, and I'm like, how long have we been like, we've all been booked for this wedding for like 10 months. Like, how have you've never had a conversation with them at all about having like a wireless microphone for toast, which is like a very standard, but like, I'm just trying to ease into this, right? Like,
right.
Because normally I would just be like, hey, where's can I get a plug in or whatever? And I'm like, it just kills me. Like some of these, you know, people, they just, and it's all types of vendors, but just some of this preparation stuff, I'm like, we have like a 6-page thing that we send out about like our wedding stuff. I'm like, just basic stuff that we didn't. And so then he goes, well, you know, I guess, Yeah, we should probably do that. Okay, should I talk to him about it? Well, no, I'm like, these are not conversations we should be having day up. But we were
today. Yeah.
But we totally were. And I was like, this is astounding to me that we're having this conversation right now and that you're like the DJ for this event. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is crazy. That blows my mind. Like I try to make sure, like when I talk to people and they're like, they are interested, I'm like, I want to meet with you in person at least once or FaceTime with you at least once. Just get to know you, like on a bare minimum. And then I want to have another conversation later, close to the date, about what your timeline really looks like. And if I can help give any input at all, I've done, 50 plus of these, like I want to be there for it. And I want to know the specifics, even if in our contract and our pricing, the wireless mic wasn't included or uplights weren't included or something like that, or you need a second setup. I would like to be able to pivot 2 weeks prior rather than being like, oh, well, that's not what you said. And then have the day kind of suck because I wasn't paying attention. You know what I mean? Even if the fault isn't on me, touching base like that and like getting all your ducks in a row, it just makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Although talking to myself probably 7 years ago, I'd have been like mind blown. Whoa, that makes sense. So a practice, makes this like a thing we do.
Yeah, well, and like my wife will always ask that, like, well, like, are they paying for that? Or are they asking? I'm like, I don't know. At some point, like, I got to live with this stuff afterward. I got to edit everything. And so if it's going to be a cluster F and then I got to go back and fix it, like, well, I would rather just have those conversations ahead of time than, you know. I still got to, at least with the DJ stuff, you're kind of done. I still got to live with it for like 40 hours. It's better to just try to nip it in the bud,
Yeah, that's one thing I've always admired, and something I would love to just like shout out, even on like weddings I don't do, is my weddings end, at midnight. Like, see you later. That I'm done. Your job just has begun, and you have to go, and then you have to go turn it around, keep the memory of the day in there and pack up, and you're still booking new events and you're still working on that. And then who knows? Some photographers turnaround is 3 months. Some are, 4 weeks. But that's always fascinated me we meet in the middle there and you continue working on the wedding and I'm so done. Like the next day, it's over. I did it.
Yeah, but generally your path starts a lot earlier. You have a lot more pre-prep in that than we try to do. Like I said, we have our questionnaire and stuff, but we could just walk in and at this point, right? Like I could just walk in pretty blind and figure it out. You don't want to, but you don't want to, but yeah. But you have to do a lot more of that pre-prep. So yeah, it's definitely like meeting in the middle and then the diverging before and after for the various things. So
it's intriguing. How long have you been doing this?
This will be 6.5, 7 years. We just crossed wedding 301 on Sunday. So I was happy.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I was happy. It was like 2,600 hours at weddings or something like that. So I have a thing that counts as, cause I'm like OCD, but I keep track of all that stuff. So yeah.
You want to hit that 10,000 hour mark?
Well, that's a long way to go, but yeah. Yeah. So I was proud about that. Yeah. We had 300 and then 301 over the weekend. So that was good.
That's fantastic, man. So, great for you.
Thank you.
That's so many. I've done I showed you like 50 maybe. 300. Wow. Cannot wait to hit that number. It sounds.
Well, I always laugh because I always email out the questionnaire and some people will just be like, oh, it's too many to count. And I'm like, well, I think you should have.
You're like, I'm counting.
So do you do like music and stuff in the off season? And then do you like, when you say you produce, you do like audio stuff? Do you produce music too? Are you into all that stuff?
Yeah. So like I said, I've been working with DAWs, digital audio workspaces for 12 years, 13 years. So I've always been doing it. It's only been since the world started burning that I've really started to be like, okay, I can't just bartend and DJ because those two things might not exist all the time. So I love producing big soundscapes and I think scoring a movie would be cool, which is such a huge departure from what I'm doing as a DJ. But I've been working a lot on like crafting my sound and figuring that out, and just trying to learn, like trying to master the program so I can go through the flow and get my thoughts out quicker. But one of the fun things I've been doing recently, like for my podcast, for Kelsey's podcast, and there was another thing I did for some video, just like making music for those things. It was a quick 30-second intro, but kind of being able to do the same back and forth rapport, getting to know, even though I've known Kelsey for 3 years, just kind of like, okay, what's the vibe of the podcast? What do you want? Being able to turn that emotion into a sound and then use that and put that on the podcast. I would love to keep doing that. That is super fun. Pinging back and forth and her being like, oh yeah, I like it. Can we just make it cooler? And I'm like, yeah, that's the goal. I just don't know what direction that's in, but so yeah, I've been having fun doing that. As far as other stuff, I don't know if I'm going to go back to bartending or if this is like the jump off point. I mean, been kind of free falling for a while. I have not been the best with maintaining my business. It's all been kind of weird. I'm sure you've been there a little bit too. I've had 5 events this summer, which is low. Got some rescheduled, but who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, I'm trying to work on that. I was just updating my website last night, reaching out to a couple photographers that I know to get some new headshots, because I have long hair now, and like all my stuff is like short hair. I had someone be like, "Who's this Jay guy in my DMs?" I was like, "That's me." Like, oh, yeah, it doesn't look like you. I'm like, well, that's not good, because this is my business. So yeah, trying to get my ducks in a row. Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
What's it been like, with all the COVID, as someone, outgoing people person, DJ? I mean, what's it been like, on the other side of that and not being able to experience all that all summer?
Oh man. Like, it's almost like I'm tired of pretending it's chill, because it's so not. But like, I've gotten over the hump. Like, I was in a dark place. Like, I didn't want to do anything. I was like, maybe I'll just start doing real estate. Like, the universe is telling me my dream is dead. I'm a white man right now. Like, my voice doesn't mean anything. Like, I'm just going to shut up. But like, I mean, as far as like how I view progress and like things getting better, I don't think everybody needs to be doing the same job. And it took me a couple months, but I believe that my job in this progression and the world being a better place is bringing joy, is making people laugh, helping people dance, telling a good story. That's my job. And so kind of turning that around and using that as my why, and kind of reestablishing J. Curry as a brand. That's my job, bring joy. I'm not going to be reading bills, and I'm not going to be, the super activist posting a bunch of like crazy stuff on Instagram. That's not my job. My job is to make you happy. I do want to stay informed. I'm not like trying to be ignorant to it. There's a lot of things that bug me, but in the end, that's what I want to be doing, is that. So yeah, I mean, it especially without people, my God, like I hung out with like 7 people the other day. And after the car ride, like on the car ride home, I was just full of energy. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot what it felt like to talk to more than 2 people at the same time. Like, it was just like, I love it. I like trying to be the center of attention in a party. That's how it's always been. I've always loved crowds. Being the DJ and being on the mic and talking and kicking jokes to 200 people. Oh man, I miss that. I only got to do it a couple of times, but yeah, being in the same house, not being able to like go meet up with the same gang, or having to tell a lot of people no because they're all doing crazy stuff. It's been weird. It's been a weird mental journey. Growth is there, but yeah, it's been weird.
Well, it's tough because, like you said, you can't, you see all this stuff, but you kind of need to maintain some semblance of what you are or what we all do. I don't know. It's like I'm a wedding videographer, right? Like my stress level, like we do our XFL podcast, and my buddy Paul works at KTLA and just sees the horrors of the world, right? Covering politics and the wildfires and all these different things going on. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I gotta put a wedding video together today. Like it's different, but you're like, I can't. Like you said, we can't all do the same job, right? You need to. Right. It's definitely an interesting thing there.
It is, yeah. And I think a lot of people got in the mindset, like, especially like when everything we do to keep ourselves busy and like maybe not on purpose, but unintentionally, like not thinking about the issues, all of that was paused. You could not escape what's going on. I think a lot of people went through that same issue. Like, okay, well, what part do I play in this? What's my role now? Because it used to be a lot of people's role was going to a day job, being social afterwards, doing my little hobby, talking about whatever with my homies. And that was it. And like, if there's a problem, it's like, yeah, it's a problem, but I got shit to do. I work 50 hours a week, that paused for a lot of people. So like, we were just kind of forced to like really, okay, what's my role now? And I think for some people, fortunately, they already knew. Some people are still figuring out. But it's going to be interesting how this plays out, whether it's this year or next year. I think it's going to be a lot of creatives like us, like really like grabbing it by the horns and being like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. And I'm excited to see that. It's unfortunate that there have been businesses that go under, but like the silver lining is there's going to be new ones that pop up in place. There's a lot of people coming out of this just tired of being boring. And I'm excited to see all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something, and like, I struggled with, online stuff, and like, I post a lot of just dumb stuff on like my Instagram and like, memes, all this different stuff, and and you see everything going on, and you're like, wow, I don't really know, right? Like, is this the right time? But then I would have, brides, like when I would post that, I look forward to this all the time. Like I got my little baby now, and I'm reading this, like it brings joy. And so you go, okay, like I guess this is supposed to be, my little, that's my little role in the day for that 2 seconds of whatever dumb stuff to post to bring, because otherwise you do feel like, well, I don't want to, but I remember back when it was a lot of the really negative stuff, and I'm like, well, then I don't even want to be on any of this interacting with anybody because then it's too negative. So it's a fine balance there.
Yeah, it is a fine balance, and it's not going to go back to whatever normal was, maybe ever. So like, just kind of like learning how to navigate this has been interesting. I'm ready for it to be not on the front page of my brain all day, though. Like I'm ready to be like, okay, things are here. It's manageable enough. I need to make moves now. Like I'm a grown adult and I've made this choice like 3 or 4 years ago. That is what I want to do. So it's time to buckle up.
I want to hear. So, when you talk about, being the MC and entertaining, you're kind of up there in the spotlight. Where does that come from? The confidence to do that? I mean, did you like act or perform or anything? I mean, where does that come from? Having that, like, I'm going to get in front and command all this stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, like my mom has always been, like I said, like my number one fan. And so anything I had to say, no matter how much I had to say, she would just eat it up. So I think that had to do with it. Both of my parents are very personal people. They both worked in the hospitality industry. My dad was a chef for like 35 years. My mom ran a couple hotels as I grew up. And so they're both, very familiar with people. A lot of talking, and I got to meet a lot of people. And I remember, I think one time my mom met somebody at a store and I was with her, and they went to say hi, and I was like, I'm shy. Like I learned that word, I'm shy. And she was like, no, you're not. You're not. And it just stuck. Like I was not. And I've always just kind of gravitated towards being that. And I was a weirdo. I promise. I was so out there, like too much. One of my favorite teachers ever, Miss Tobeck, shout out. Third and fourth grade, we were her first class, and it was like meet the teacher before school. And I walk in the room, just me and my parents. I walk in the room, and I say, hi. And I scratch the whole chalkboard and I say, I'm Jay. She's like, oh, this kid's going to be fun. But we got along great because I never crossed the line. I always knew like where the buttons were. I had a ton of people tell me I should do stand-up. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not your monkey. I just want to randomly do weird stuff. So I think that just like flexing that all the time, just like being weird often enough, it just allowed me to be more comfortable in my own skin. And then toning that down in order to be around strangers and like be a part of someone's day. It took some years. Like I wasn't like the J personality that I am now. Like the first 10 weddings, I was very like, ladies and gentlemen, now, if you could please, but now I'm definitely more myself, and it's just practice. Snapchat helped when that came around. It was just all day, just me doing weird stuff into it and sending it out to whoever deletes whoever. No one's gonna see it again. And so that helped me just living alone and doing that Snapchat thing for like a year. Like I tell people all the time, just keep posting stuff, which is funny because I have not posted anything lately, but there's other things going on. But yeah, I think that just comes from being able to practice it, being comfortable to do it, sometimes going outside the comfort zone. But I also love to hear my own voice, apparently. I've just been rambling.
Well, no, I mean, because that segues to kind of my next thing is it's that fine balance between being yourself, because the whole point of doing this podcast, doing the get to know your wedding, for all this kind of stuff is because at the end of the day, people are hiring like us as vendors, but like as us as people as the vendors, right?
For sure.
And like you said, when you started out and you're a little more, I mean, I think a lot of people do, right? I think a lot of people start off and they're like, okay, I just need to book anything I can and be just kind of a nebulous thing that people are hiring, right? If it's a photographer, it's a videographer, whatever. And it really is interesting as I've grown and done the podcast, and I talk with new vendors and old vendors and people that have been doing it. Greg Ladder was just on; he's been whatever for like 25 years, and it's just when you learn that stuff, I do think you get more, the clients that you want, right? You attract the stuff. Like my wife always says, like you get what you give. Like you always, if you're
100%.
positive. And, like I see, I was just on Facebook when I was eating lunch, like there's this wedding videographer group and it's like nationwide. And these guys post like the dumbest stuff because they're all, they're not, I'm like, just be yourself and get the clients you want. And like, we don't have trouble clients, right? Because they like someone that has like a dragons thing and all this stuff, like they're not like that bride's not going to hire me if they don't want somebody that's like a normal whatever thing. And it's the same with you and like hiring, but it's just interesting and finding that balance. And obviously like it seems like, you've gotten there. It's just interesting kind of that progression that I think a lot of vendors either go through or don't go through and kind of the different stages. Does any of that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I like that you talk about your personality with it too, because on the other side of the fence, looking at photographers and videographers, I see a lot of the same like cookie cutter Pinterest. And part of that is, how many stay-at-home moms are being photographers, but just the same style without a lot of like, if any personality to it. And so it's so refreshing to see someone with their own style. The first thing that comes to mind is this video on TikTok from the other day. It was like what people think I do as a videographer. And it's like what you see. I'm sorry, there's a fruit fly around. Get out of here. But then it just turns to like dubstep and like all his clients are like, you doing like slow-mo amazing stuff. And there's like, riding a tractor through the field. It's just like, they are totally different than a lot of things I see. And all their edits are different. It's like, that's why they get hired. They might not get hired by all people, but there are people that hire specifically because they're different. And I think that's really key to finding your own clientele and to liking what you do more, because you get to work and be yourself around the people who want you to be that way. Clutch.
Well, it killed me. I had like a corporate client. And so someone previously with that company had hired me. And then they're now at a different role. So then someone else hired me and they're like, hey, we need to hire you. Like I've done stuff for them in the past. And I was like, well, here's the video we did before. This is what we can do. And they're like, okay, great. That's perfect. So I go out and film it and I edit it and I sent it to them. And this was like last week or the week before. And they're like, oh, well, this isn't what, we wanted. Like, this is what we wanted. And they sent this thing. And I'm like, I literally like, you hired me. I've worked for your company before. We did, this wasn't like this isn't apples to apples. Like we did this video for your other property. Now we're doing the same video for a different property. Then I just wish you wouldn't have hired me. Then if you're going to hire me and be disappointed or not, right? Because like I want you guys to be happy with what you have. But when I have your company's video on my website and you look at that and then you want something different, it's a troublesome thing where you're like, no, like I want, you want to hire people that you want and be ultimately happy with that. If that, you know what I'm saying?
It's a fun place to get to, which I feel like I'm just breaching there, but like getting referrals from venues, they're like, hey, these people are right up your alley. You guys would totally vibe and get along. They're fun. They like EDM, whatever. That's a fun place to get to be like, have that warm handoff or like just be like, I see you, I'm excited to get more like that and to eventually like have people be like, oh, I don't think we're a good fit, and me be like, you're right, and and be okay with that because at this point I'm like, any gig I can get. But that's a fun place to get to for sure.
Are you into the EDM? Is that your?
I 100% am. Yeah. I mean, I like all stuff. Like if I was to choose where I could play a gig, I think like a Vegas club would be super fun, like very open format. Your new pop hits, Drake, some old R&B throwbacks, some real heavy hitting dub step, just doing all of it. Cause I feel like painting with more colors can just be real cool, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I have a friend who says EDM isn't music. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, whatever you say, man. Just go listen to your little yachty again. But I like it. But mainly just having fun. Definitely having fun. Like I'll get out from behind the booth and go join the train and, dance with the bride's mom. And I try to like get people going,
I was going to share, I know this is your podcast. I'm going to share one quick story, the Vegas club and get your reaction. So my wife, we're like mid-30s. We're old. I feel very old now, but my wife is a major Kygo fan. That's like her, like more than anything in the world. Like we went and saw him, like he played at Berkeley. We went and saw him. So he was playing in Vegas back in like right before all this shut down, like back in January. And so it's, 10 o'clock and he's playing at, God, what was it? Like the
Encore?
At the Wynn, the thing at the Wynn.
Oh, the Wynn, yeah.
And so we're trying to book our plane tickets and everything. And so I think because she had to work that day, so we were going to fly in like at like 8 or 8:30 at night, and the show was going to be at 10. And Paul, he's like, dude, he's not even going to come on till midnight. Like this is, you don't need to worry about like getting there and, cause I'm like, we gotta get there.
Right.
So so I think we ended up getting to like whatever the club was at like 11 or 11:15. And like, we're so tired. Like we've worked all day, we're flying. And we're sitting there and we're talking with these people and they're like, oh yeah, we're lucky if he comes on like at 1:30. And I'm like, what is happening here? Like this concert. I mean, I know they're trying to sell drinks and stuff, but I'm like, this was like a 10 o'clock concert. And I think he came on at like 2:15 and we made it till 3:30. And I said, we got to go. Like we were so tired, but it was like the most miserable, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, you guys have made this so hard for us to go see the show,
Yeah. I've definitely had situations where I'm like, okay, I love you, but like 2 hours, it's kind of pushing it. 3, I'm really annoyed. Very annoyed. And sometimes it's like, okay, there's sound issues or, the opener got there or whatever. But I mean, at what point do you just be like, well,
it's like we've flown all this sleep.
It's hard though, because you're there, you bought the tickets, you're already there. It's like, you win, Kygo.
It's crazy. Any other topics you want to touch on before we let you go? I feel like this has been a fun walkthrough of everything. Goals for the future once we get back to normalcy?
Yeah. I mean, immediate goals of mine are to, like I said, update content and get more of my stuff out there. And I'm trying to work on a better way to have that first meeting with a client not be an email that they send me as an inquiry, something that shows my flavor a little more. So video would be cool. Maybe we should link up in the future on that. But definitely working on just all my social medias and posting more about what I do with my personality on Instagram, Reels, all that stuff. And then, the big goal would be only do that forever. I'm sure I'll probably invest in real estate eventually. That's important adult things to do, but not work at a bar, not work at a Verizon ever again, not have to worry about that. That's the next goal for me, is turn this into a reality and then travel with it.
Is it that doing that jump, is that just scary? I mean, we'll talk about the emotions behind that, about,
Yeah. I think how I've identified it is part of me feels like it's still like not a real dream. Like it's something that I could attain, but I might not. But that's just like literally that thought is the reason I'm not. Like it's the fear of being, annoying, or, being like, yeah, I'm the DJ again. Like, please hire me, like that stuff. I think that's honestly it. Like just being like, am I qualified to be making 100,000 a year as a DJ? Like, I feel like I could, but like, how many people are going to trust me with that day? It's like this weird self-doubt. Like, I know I kill it. I have no doubt in my mind. Like almost every wedding I do, it's fire. And I get tipped and thank you'd and, thank you letters. But there is that like, can I really do this? Can I really do this? So that's it. Just kind of like shoving that voice down or confronting it and smacking it in the face. That's the goal right now.
It's so hard because there's some, and I see new photographers and videographers and people all the time. Like there's some people that they're like, okay, I do 2 weddings. Okay, I'm a wedding videographer now. And like they're gone. And then there's people that either really do, and I struggle, it took me a year to kind of make that transition. I mean, there's people that just, it's just funny how just different people are and trying to figure out what's right for them. And there's no right answer. And it's so interesting to hear the stories from everybody.
Yeah. What moment did you have where you were like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm going to be doing. And like, after that, there was not another conversation internally with yourself.
I was building, we had started everything. I used to work at Q13. So I'd been there like 4.5 years. And, I remember I talked to my mom and I had said, hey, I think we're ready to do this. And she said, yeah, I think you should do it. And that in my head, I'm like, okay, well, if I fail, like she'll bail me out. Cause I could always say like, hey, you told me to do it.
You told me to do it.
Yeah, you said it was going to be an idea. But that was it. And it was so interesting. And we've talked about it before. I can't remember if it was Kelsey's podcast, one of the ones I just did recently, where when you have, and obviously right now there's too much free time for everybody, right? I mean, just with COVID, but normally, if you're working the other jobs and stuff and you're building the gigs, like when you have that extra time, then you end up filling it in ways that are either like extra paying jobs or other ways to, support that, right? Whether it's posting things or working or whatever, but you find the time. Because I remember when I quit right before Christmas of whatever year it was. And then it was like Christmas break and, we saw the family and my wife's a teacher. So we were off and then it was like New Year's and whatever. And I remember like that first Monday that she went back to work and, I'm just sitting there at the house. Right. And I'm like, I gotta, we gotta do it now. Right. Like the vacation's over. Like you gotta, and you just end up you just fill the time, if you're, motivated enough. I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's not for everybody, but obviously have been doing it a long time. It's successful, but just not, you have to really be accountable. And like, even the guys that work for me and girls that, like second shoot and whatever, some of them can fill that time on their own, and then some of them can't. And there's no rhyme or reason why some do and some don't. There's no reason why, I've always said there was no reason why there was 25 photographers at Q13. There was no reason why I was the one that got to leave to start my own company and the other ones didn't. Like, I was no better or worse than anybody else at being a videographer,
Yeah. What do you think gave you, and I'm sorry, this is turning to me asking you questions. What do you think gave you that, like, that work for yourself mentality? I want to follow that up with something that I like to think about. My buddy Brian, he brought this up to me one time, and he was like, you're running a business. This is your business. This is what you do. You work for yourself. You are your own boss. If you separated those two people, would you fire yourself? And I was like, dang, like, probably. Like, if I hired me and exactly what I was doing right now to run my business for me, I was like, yeah, I'd probably hire someone else. That's crazy. That was a weird thought.
Why though? Why would you fire yourself?
Because I was working on my business like 5 hours a week at the time, like not trying, like, oh yeah, like I got another inquiry. That's awesome. I'm doing it. But it's like, what else was I doing? Spending like an hour on Instagram doing nothing, not like really interacting or not like learning my craft. And so that was like a big shift in mentality. Like, yeah, this is a job. Like when you talk about filling the time, like I was working 2 bar jobs and then like DJing this one summer, and I was like, I'm busy. This is amazing. If you take away those bar jobs though, I was not that busy as a DJ. Like, I was filling in the time the way I could. But taking away, that day job that just essentially pays me to support the other one, like creating that other space, totally different ballgame. So like what gave you that ethic, I guess, to like do it on your own?
My dad had his own company. He's since has passed away, but he had his own advertising company. And I think that was, he was a workaholic and I'm a workaholic. So that was part of it. But yeah, people just don't get, and even like I said, the kids that work for me, my friend, we do, we just started this XFL podcast and he works, and I'm like, there's not 1 second of the day that I'm not thinking about something, like doing something beneficial for, whether it's, Best Made Videos or the podcast or the other podcasts or, the wedding set or whatever. Right. But it doesn't turn off. Right. And that's not necessarily like a good thing, but like, it was a really weird thing for me back in, I guess April, whatever, to like sit and play video games for like a week, was like a really, but I just am not used to, cause I've always felt like, cause, where Dorothy has always worked. And like I said, when I quit and then I was at home, I always felt like I was, had to be accountable. Like when she came home, like, hey, how was your day? What'd you do? Just talking, whatever. And like, I always wanted to have stuff to be able to talk about, or, like, hey, I did this, or I did that, or I worked on this, or I got this. Right. And so, at the beginning, you would talk a lot about like the one inquiry you got, or the one like, oh, hey, I did, but then you're like, well, I don't know, have more stuff to that kind of thing. I don't know. But it is that, it's a workaholic thing. It is true that, you work 100 hours for yourself, so you don't have to work 40 hours for someone else, Yeah. Really, that's 100, that's, the most truthful thing about all that is it's so much more everything, But,
you handle all facets of it.
Yeah. But like I said, I don't even, like I said, the people I send out, because I have Matt works for me and he does a lot of weddings with me, and then he does weddings on his own, and I coordinate all of that. And I'm like, yeah, dude, for you to be there for the 10 hours, I have 50 emails with them and all this different stuff just for you to be able, you know what I mean? Like, there's just for that 10 hours, there's all this other stuff that goes into it, even on my end, that you don't see, and they don't always get that.
Yeah.
Right. You know, so,
yeah, that's true. That's cool, man. That's interesting. Also inspiring.
Well, I don't know if it's inspiring. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of obsessive compulsive.
Well, I mean, Kelsey talked to me about like how much you do, and it does sound like just another level of mindset. But I mean, it is somewhere I got to go towards, you know, doing more, having more going on.
The key, and I mean, before anyway, but the big key for me was, and it's digital this year, but they do the Wedding MBA down in Vegas. It's like the big conference.
Right.
And there's a lot of different conferences and stuff, but I've always thought that the Wedding MBA, and not all the talks and not all the people, and there's a lot of, even like the videographers that show there, a lot of them are just blowing smoke and trying to like, you know, tout their own whatever. But it's just that idea of running your business as a business and not as like a creative endeavor. Like even
right,
like the like I was saying, like the wedding videographer groups I'm part of, and I see all these people like, I don't feel inspired with this one, or they want this stuff changed and I don't want to change it because I love the way that I did it. And it's like, I don't like, my opinion of your wedding video doesn't matter at all. Right. Like at all, like, and not in a bad way. Right. Like it does not matter at all. Right. Ultimately, if I like it or not, it matters if they like it. And so,
a huge difference.
But people don't get that. People don't. And the artist things, I mean, DJ, I think is different because you're in that service industry. You know, you're on the service side where you're dealing with them a lot more one-on-one, whatever. But a lot of videographers will go off into a corner and edit for 1 million hours and then be like devastated when they don't like it. And you know, because they're looking at it more as like, and not that what you don't do is not art as well, but they view it much more as like, I've crafted this little thing.
Totally. And when like your feedback is not as immediate, like I get feedback in seconds. Yeah. Like I know when I'm not hitting, you know, and like, luckily I've, you know, come across a good amount of tools to help me start and finish a wedding, you know, without much, you know, sweating, you know, like doing the getting started packet and like getting to know their taste and their vibe and asking them like little weird questions, like, you know, what was your guys' first song that you like jammed out to or got drunk at the club, you know, like stuff like that. But yeah, my feedback's immediate. So it's hard for me to imagine like going into a corner for 100 hours and coming out and be like, isn't this amazing? And then being like, no, not at all. Like, oh yeah, you're right. I was alone in my room for that long. So yeah, that's an entirely different challenge.
So it's just tough, but it's removing yourself from that, you know, it's removing, and it's so hard. It took me years. I mean, years and years to not be just devastated when stuff doesn't come back and they don't like it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, especially as an artist, like your ego is tied up in that. It's hard not to, you know?
Yeah.
So and then you realize you're good at it regardless of whether you like it or not, you know, like what you do. Yeah.
This stuff. Yeah. Well, good, man. This has been fun. I'm glad that you got to come on and we got to banter, and I'm so glad we have an episode for this week now. This will be great.
For sure. Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, likewise. If people want to learn more about you and all your different stuff, and please plug your website and social media and everything else. Yeah.
Website is www.DJJCurry, and that's JAYCURRY. It's simple, but that's my landing page. My Instagram is J David Curry. So first name, middle name, last name, JAY David Curry. That's kind of it. My Facebook is this also me. It's just my name. People ask me, "What's your DJ name?" It's like, it's Jay. It's just me. People, I love this. People are always like, "What if it was DJ Curry? Wouldn't that be crazy?" No, I've never thought of that. Actually, I've never thought of that. So anyways, yeah, Jay Curry, hit me up on Instagram. I got a link tree that links to other stuff like my Spotify, and I guess TikTok is in there now. I don't do much on there. We're changing things. I'm getting stuff together. But anyways, my website, www.djjcurry.com.
Love the link trees. Link tree is great.
They're amazing.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So easy.
Yeah. If anyone doesn't know, you can put 1 million links on your Instagram.
Yeah.
Because they make it so hard. They make it like, because I'm trying to explain this like to Dorothy. like we had to do, she wanted for, do not ask me why, for her birthday, she wanted to edit a video of our dog Rosie. That was all she wanted. Because we're not big, like we don't give each other gifts. She goes, I just wanted like this little minute long thing about Rosie. And so I edited it, and we edited it, and I gave it to her, and she's trying to like post it on Instagram. She's like, well, why can't I? Because it was like a minute and like 15 seconds. So I'm like,
yeah,
well, see, you can't post it in the thing. You got to post it in the other thing. And then you got to have it split up in the stories, and then you got to have it on the IGTV. And she's like, what is happening? I'm like, I do this every day. Like, it's so hard to just post, and they make it so hard.
Yeah, they do. And especially like with like, there are people who like, they do music or song cuts. And like, unless your song is like 120 beats per minute, exactly, that minute mark is kind of ugly, man. When people do like videos, it's like cuts off in the middle. So just the funnel of social media, which is a whole other topic, like getting people from your story to your reel to your YouTube, where you want people to land. That's a very interesting science. Getting that all together.
Well, and I've been trying to post our new podcast things on like Twitter, and it can only be 2 minutes and 20 seconds. It's like, why is that? Why is it 2 minutes and 20 seconds? It makes it's not even 140 or 240, whatever the characters are. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. I can't handle it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. If you're interested in coming on the podcast in the future, you can go to bestmadevideos.com/podcast guest. And this has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thanks so much.
Thanks a bunch.